Hey my friends, welcome back to Frog Boy X1 Gaming. I'm Andrew and today we're going to talk about frame generation, multi-frame generation, and upscaling. And we're gonna take a deep dive into this because Nvidia and AMD are both going to start leaning very heavily into this, and I can already tell from the Discord on the internet that everybody is kind of, a lot of people are thinking this is just going to be a lot more snake oil, and a lot of people are really thinking that this is you know, that this is the future. Like this is where games are going. This is what we need. We're fully embraced in this. And let me just give you guys my honest opinion about this after testing multiple games yesterday. Like I stayed up kind of late, as you've seen on the channel. I threw up some of those videos. I stayed up kind of late really testing this stuff to kind of get an idea of how this is going to propel gaming going forward. Now I tested all of this on an AMD 7900 XTX with a 7800X 3D on basically every game that has AMD's FSR 3.1, also has AMD's frame generation for those titles. But then as an AMD owner, you also have driver level frame generation, which is called AMD's fluid motion frames, AMD AFMF2, that you can essentially enable for any game, DirectX 11, DirectX 12. But as what you can do is you can actually run those games with FSR 3.1, you know, in the quality setting. You can turn on the frame generation, and then you also have the ability to stack AMD's fluid motion frames too on top of that. So essentially is what you're getting is you're getting a quality setting of image quality from FSR 3.1, which looks pretty decent at 4K. And then you automatically enable the frame generation, which usually takes your frames up. On most of the games that I tried, we're already in the, you know, just native resolution, anywhere from like 70 to 90 frames. So you turn on the regular frame generation, that bumps you up to your screen refresh of 120 frames a second, pretty much a locked experience. And then you enable AMD's fluid motion frames on top of that, which takes you into the 240 to 260, all the way up to like 300 frames a second on some of these titles, and you can utilize that to really gain frame rate. So what I have is a LG C2, which tops out at 120 frames, and then I also have the LG 39-inch ultra-wide 3440 by 1440p monitor that tops out at 240 frames. So I can use it on a more stable screen, like obviously the LG monitor. Well, here's the thing, my friends. If you essentially with like AMD, you can also utilize virtual super resolution, so you can bump your resolution up even higher, then downsample, so you're still able to pretty much it's almost 4K, like 3840 by 1620p. You can bump it up, so you are kind of pushing more pixels, probably about 80% or so, 75%, 80% of the pixels of 4K, so that you can still kind of gauge that information to kind of, you know, put yourself in a so that you can put your image quality and performance at about the same level as you do on a 4K screen. So guys, after testing this and testing it really good and looking at it and like coming into it with a mindset of, is it playable? Does it feel good? Is it convincing? And does it affect the overall image quality to a point where it's noticeably worse than just running the game at native resolution or with just upscaling? How does frame generation really affect the overall experience? And I'm not gonna lie to you guys. Like, I came back to the conclusion that like the average casual gamer isn't gonna be able to tell the difference. They're not. They're not. They're gonna get on this and they're gonna play this, and this feels very good. And image quality, and we're talking about FSR 3.1, you know, the one that everybody says is blurry and the flicker and all of that stuff. Even with that enabled, running these games at 240 plus frames a second, even with VRR flicker on a 120 FPS display, by running these games without a frame rate limiter, the gameplay is still very playable. Like, yeah, you get the VRR flicker, but I mean, seriously, that wasn't even as bad as I would have thought, you know, because when I'm panning the camera, I'm not getting a whole lot of freaking screen tearing or anything like that. I'm just getting good image quality. Like, it still looks good to my eye. I'm still like, wow, this looks really, really good. Like, it looks 4K. Obviously, you've got the, you know, the stuff that everybody points out, you know, like the ghosting, some of the ghosting and stuff like that, but not to an extreme that most people would be like, oh man, I just can't play that. It's unplayable. The casual gamer has pretty high tolerance, my friends. Like, the tolerance level for a casual gamer, if you've ever been out somewhere and you've talked to somebody that plays games and you're like, hey man, what's your favorite game? And they're talking to you about like the games they play, and you're just like, okay, wow, what are you playing that on? And they're like, oh, I got it on a phone screen or a Nintendo Switch or something like that. There's a lot more casual gamers out there that really just don't care about the things that we care about, really just don't look at the way we see things. And you know, like us gamers that are like really hyper tuned to like all of this, you know, like the upscaling and all of that kind of stuff like that, you know, the people that really value like the visuals and the performance and stuff like that. Most of these people, you know, that are you know, gamers that are casual gamers, they don't care, and they are easily going to be taken advantage of by these corporations, by Nvidia, by AMD out there, you know, peddling this snake oil that most of us can see right through. Most of us can see right through it. I mean, I can easily tell that I'm utilizing, you know, obviously frame generation. I can obviously tell that I'm using the upscaling and stuff like that as I'm playing these games. But it's not as annoying, and it's not a terrible experience. It's playable. It's playable. It looks just fine. It still looks significantly better than anything I can get on console today, and feels significantly smoother than anything I can play on a console today. That's the thing. Like, when you set somebody on in front of this that's been playing on PlayStation or Xbox or Nintendo their whole life, when you sit them in front of this experience with 240 fake frames, which I mean, obviously if I'm getting about 70 to 80 frames natively, I'm getting a whole freaking, I'm getting like 3 times, or well, like 2 times as many frames, like 1.5x more frames than I would be getting just running this natively, and it's smoother. And the input latency is so low that you can't even feel it when you're running at like 8-9 milliseconds of latency. And the screen, oh man, I have a lot of soul searching to do completely, my friends, because, you know, I'm gonna get this 5080 and I'm gonna run it next to the 7900 XTX. In a lot of these games, I'll be able to utilize, you know, FSR 3.1. I'll be able to utilize AMD's fluid motion frames stacked on top of just normal frame generation, and I'll be able to gauge the difference of how does it feel on Nvidia's new 50 series GPUs with multi-frame generation that is AI upscaled, that is AI, the AI is building and putting into this game. How big is the difference gonna be between these two experiences? And then obviously a little bit later, or whenever it comes out, I'll be grabbing the 9070 XT, and we will also be utilizing the same features, the same, you know, we'll if we still have available, obviously we'll still have just regular frame generation, seeing as AMD's fluid motion frames 2 is a driver level feature. Maybe we'll be able to flip that on still as well, and then we'll be able to run the 9070 XT next to the 5080 to gauge how this experience is going to feel. But I must caution you, my friends, and I must tell you that yes, we are getting into a future, you know, people tell me this in the comment section all the time, that this is the future. This is the future. They're fine with it. They have zero problems with this. They want more. They want this to be the thing, and that's what freaks me out the most. And I'll tell you why this freaks me out the most. Not so much with the AMD side, I mean, I still feel like AMD is still trying to like be there to like build, like I still feel like there's,
I can get out of this.
This is the difference, okay? This is what I see as the difference. You can correct me if I'm wrong. Let me know in the comments section. But I feel like the guys that build AMD are gamers. I feel like the guys that build Nvidia are more, let's put it this way. How can I be nice and how can I be not necessarily nice, but this is the way I see it. I see the guys that are building Nvidia, that they're building the AI tech and all of that stuff. I kind of feel like these are the guys, like engineers that build cars versus mechanics that fix cars. They're like, yeah, what can we do to push this? And it's like they're looking for ways, whether they're great or not, to really push the AI algorithms and the AI stuff to like really just revamp the gaming experience and to see if they can get it as sharp and crispy as they possibly can with as many frames as they can, all by using software algorithms and stuff like that. That's where I kind of feel Nvidia is, and that's kind of what I've seen, you know, in my Nvidia experience. I mean, it looks good most of the time. Obviously, it's very convincing, but then I see so much. You know, most people like their eyes are drawn to like artifacting and, you know, like other things like ghosting and stuff like that. And those are all things that like I have a pretty high tolerance for. What I don't have a high tolerance for is in my image quality is when it looks really sharp and really perfect like Nvidia's DLSS does. To me, it kind of pulls out like other flaws. That most people would probably be just like, oh, I don't care, it's sharp and crisp. But to me, it pulls out, it's like, okay, well, that it amplifies the mistakes in the visual quality itself, in the visual graphics, in the materials or something like that. Like it amplifies that even more to me. Whereas with a softer look, you know, like a TAA look, kind of hides some of that stuff, kind of, you know, breaks it up, blurs some of it out, makes it so it's not as easy to pinpoint and spot out those imperfections. So to me, it's like a toss-up, guys. I can play the Nvidia stuff and be like, yeah, that looks great. But then I also, you know, now that I've seen AMD with my own two eyes on my own screen, I can tell you that like image quality wise, I think they both compete very well. I know that there's a lot of people out there that absolutely love that sharp, crisp clarity, that it's clarity, it's you know, in terms of like the clarity is very good. Like the clarity is high. It's almost like clinically sharp and stuff like that. Whereas on the AMD side, it looks more natural. It has more of a softer look. There tends to be a little bit more blur. There tends to be, you know what I mean, guys, when you're not using it. I mean, like when I turn on like FSR 3.1 in the quality settings, it starts to look a lot more sharp, a lot more crisp, but then it also looks more, you know, you can still see, you know, that, I mean, you can see the imperfections like you can on Nvidia, but they're not as pronounced because there's not as good of an algorithm to sharpen things up to the point where it completely gets rid of that. So, but I know that there's people that love that. There's people that love that. They love that sharp, crisp look because it makes the clarity look really good and it blows their mind. And don't get me wrong, guys, I like that look on some games too. Absolutely, but you know, I kind of feel like the AMD side gives it like a better 3D look to me. Like the world just populates in a more natural way in a 3D space on the AMD side than what I'm seeing on the Nvidia, but we'll find out. But let's get back to this whole thing. Let me know in the comment section, my friends. Do you think we are going way too fast toward the, you know, frame generation, multi-frame generation, AI upscaling? Do you think that these technologies are good enough to replace hardware? It's as simple as that. Do you think that these technologies are good enough to finally replace hardware upgrades? Are we prepared to accept and pay significantly more money for software for software solutions, for software solutions that will, you know, bring out, you know, our gaming? That I don't know, guys. I'm telling you, like, it was pretty convincing last night that I don't think that the majority of gamers are going to be able to tell the difference. So if this is something that worries you, yeah, you should absolutely be worried, man. I've been playing games since I was 5 years old, and this is playable. Frame generation, stacked frame generation, the visual quality, it's playable. It's 100% playable. So you need to ask yourself that. Is this really the future that we want? And are we prepared to pay significantly more money for software solutions to our ever-growing desire for bolder visuals, for faster frame rates, you know, for higher quality AI in games, you know, yeah, are we prepared to do this? Whew, man, this is crazy, guys. This is crazy. But yeah, if the guys that say this is the future are right, then I hope that there's a solution for the people that just want that, power still. And I hope that we are able to get that, because what I played last night, my friends, was pretty convincing that this frame generation technology could fool the vast majority of gamers out there. So, all right, guys, if you like this content, do not forget to like and subscribe. Hit that like, hit that subscribe, join the Patreon, do whatever you got to do. Support this channel, help me grow bigger, and we'll see you in the next one. Thanks for watching.